We've seen the flaws in this system that Ruben Amorim wants to play, and this is not a criticism of the manager, but the squad isn't there. I admire his honesty. I think there's also a little bit of self-preservation. I don't think he wanted to take over halfway through the season. He wanted to see out the season at Sporting.
He's definitely not a ball-playing goalkeeper because it's wayward at times, it really is. Like you say, you used to get this
touch more than Johnny Wilkinson. Listen, if the players don't like it, stuff them. Yeah. These are the players who've been letting the barrage down for too long.
I've got to say, a little rant here. I think they're creating more headlines than they should be. I think it's been nothing but a wave of negativity since they took over. Honestly, it's a masterclass, absolute masterclass from the Glazers.
They must be like clinking glasses of champagne with each other, thinking this was the best thing we could have done because no one is talking about us anymore.
Reluctantly, Garnacho is now coming round to the idea of leaving United.
I just think sometimes you've actually got to play to the strength of your players rather than just stick with a formation that might not suit them. You know, I don't think they're suited to that formation.
Hello and welcome to Inside Devils, talkSPORT's Man United show, bringing you the latest news and reaction coming out of Old Trafford. I'm Ryon Scott-Douglas, filling in for Flex. You can view me as your interim host. Look at me like you're Ruud van Nistelrooy, except Flex will be coming back next week, I can assure you. And it pains me to say, but it's happened again. Another home defeat, this time at the hands of Brighton. We're going to get stuck into that amongst a lot of other things on today's show. Joining me is, of course, Alex Crook and Angelina Kelly. It really does feel like one step forward and 10 steps back, doesn't it, at the moment, guys?
Yeah, I'm not sure you want to be Ruud van Nistelrooy in this moment in time, do you? All the defeats that he's
Maybe
suffering.
That was, I need a result. I need a result today, don't I? So, yes, we're going to get stuck into all that. But before we discuss what happened on Sunday afternoon, we saw tributes over the weekend to the great Denis Law, who sadly passed away at the age of 84. A member of the United Trinity alongside George Best and Bobby Charlton. Denis is regarded as one of the club's greatest ever players, scoring 237 goals in red and white. Now, we're all a bit too young to have seen him live, but, I mean, he transcends generations, doesn't he, guys? I mean, just how big was his impact at the club, Crooky?
Well, it was massive, and it feels like the end of an era. You know, whenever I took any of my kids to Old Trafford for the first time, we got the same picture in front of the Holy Trinity statue, and obviously he was the last surviving member of that incredible trio. The only Scottish player ever to have won the Ballon d'Or. Somebody who's adored not just in the red half of Manchester, but in the blue as well, which is obviously not easy to do, particularly scoring the goal that didn't relegate Manchester United, but sort of, you know, set the seal on us going down in the 70s. So, yeah, a sad loss. I did meet him once, actually, at awards do around about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, he wasn't particularly well then, but he still had that sort of sparkle, that twinkle in his eye that he had on the pitch as well. He was an entertainer, very charismatic guy, and just a brilliant, brilliant goal scorer and someone who will be sadly missed. And I have to say, they've not got a lot right, Manchester United, this season, but the tributes on Sunday, you know, the Lone Piper, similar to what they did for Sir Matt Busby, they absolutely got the tone right there. So well done for that.
Oh, it was amazing. And I'm sure you echo the sentiments.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the reason I'm a Man United fan is because of my granddad, who had a lot more memories of things like that, you know, remembers the Busby Babes and beyond and all that type of stuff. So I think, you know, you don't get a statue at Old Trafford for nothing, do you know what I mean? So I just think, yeah, an absolutely iconic player. Somebody who, like I say, my granddad spoke to me about. So, yeah, just, you know, like you say, the tribute, as much as everything that's going wrong, the tribute was quite moving.
Yeah, it really was. Couldn't have said it better myself, guys. And he was nicknamed the King for a reason. And our thoughts and prayers go out to Denis's family and friends. Now, we've got to discuss what ended up being United's 10th Premier League defeat of the season. Goals from Minte, Mitoma and Rutter sealed Amorim's side's fate, which leaves us sat in 13th in the league table. Certainly unlucky for us. It feels like a number that's synonymous with us this season as well. We've been in amongst it all season. Alex, that was one of the sucker punches of the season for me. I don't know how you felt. It didn't shock me, but it just really did underline what is going on with us right now.
I felt worse after defeats this season, I've got to say. I felt worse after the first 80 minutes against Southampton, probably. It wasn't a terrible United performance. Brighton are just better. They're a better run club. They've got better players. They've got a better core structure and principles. And it's, 3 times in a row now they've come to Old Trafford and won. our record down there is not brilliant either. So it wasn't a massive shock. It would have been a shock, arguably, if we got anything from the game. But one shot on target and that a penalty simply isn't good enough. And I think, again, we've seen the flaws in this system that Ruben Amorim wants to play. And this is not a criticism of the manager, but the squad isn't there. You know, we haven't got a wing-back.
No.
Not that can do the type of job that he wants to do. So it's no coincidence they're looking for a left wing-back in this window. We still haven't got the legs in midfield. I'm still not convinced that Rasmus Højlund is going to be good enough as a hold-up player to do what Ruben Amorim wants him to do. And then you get onto the goalkeeper, who, for all his shot-stopping capabilities, and obviously in midweek he made that brilliant double save, probably to keep United in the game, the errors outweigh the good things. He makes too many mistakes and he's costing too many goals. I think a new goalkeeper should be top of the priority list in the summer as well.
Wow, you're calling it now, Crooky.
Yeah, I don't think he's good enough.
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you. I'll be honest with you. You know, it takes a few seasons to bed in. Of course it does. And Onana showed quality in flashes. We've seen that. But he's definitely got a mistake in him. And I'll make the statement, I genuinely believe that De Gea is better than Onana, even perhaps in the current capacity. I'm just going to say that outright. I know that might be harsh. Ange, I'm going to throw it over to you. Are you of the same line of thinking that Onana needs to be dropped, maybe for buy-in day, or do we just get a new keeper?
I feel like we need a bit of balance. So I'm going to try my best to defend this guy because maybe I do have a bit of a soft spot for him because I like, after seeing him like in person being interviewed and things like after the Fenerbahce game, like I do like the way that he speaks. But listen, I get it. It was shambolic. It was an absolute nightmare. I do have to say though that the people that are comparing current David De Gea to him, I think we need to remember that he's playing for Fiorentina in Serie A. It's very different. He is also a 34-year-old goalkeeper. Onana's 28. There is experience, you know, he's got more experience. And I think when it comes to, you know, the numbers about, you know, the shots that De Gea is making, that was his speciality. And United needed something different, and that's why he went. I don't like the way that De Gea left, but I think it's a bit of a reach for some people that are comparing him currently, because I do think that you have to weigh up the different the different scenarios that they're in. I understand why people are saying that we may need another goalkeeper, but for me, it's who do you bring in? And I do think that there are other areas that we do need to focus on. When De Gea came in, people hated him.
No, they did.
Hated him for 2-3 seasons, and then he started to come into his own. Maybe we do need to give him a chance.
You've got to get the basics right. I mean, if you're going to make worldie saves, great, but catch the ball, hold the ball, kick the ball properly. You know, that was the big strength when he came in. That was the reason that Erik ten Hag dispensed with De Gea and signed Onana, because he was supposed to be so good with the ball at his feet. He isn't.
Do you know what? It's so true. That he was supposed to be that missing piece of Erik ten Hag's puzzle, wasn't it? He's definitely not a ball-playing goalkeeper because he's passing. It's wayward at times. It really is. Like you say, you used to get
this touch more than Johnny Wilkinson.
Yeah, you used to get them VHSs, David Seaman's goalkeeping blunders and stuff like that. That was a proper blunder. Not claiming that cross, by the way. And what frustrates me about Onana is. The only thing he's really getting praised for, which alluded to your stat there, Ange, was his shot stopping. And we had arguably the best shot stopper in the league. The reason why we brought Onana in was to add some extra dynamic, some extra layers to our goalkeeping situation. So Onana, the jury's out for me, I must say.
I just think we've got worse situations.
I agree.
I get what you're saying in that, like, he's having blunders and he shouldn't be making these mistakes. But I think if push came to shove, would I take a striker over a goalkeeper? I probably would.
He got us knocked out of the Champions League on his own in the group stage last season.
And he apologised for it, thank you.
Sorry. Look, Onana, he's a polarising figure. Some people are going to back him, some people won't. And that will be the tone. That is the tone throughout this Man United squad.
We have to see how the season goes, I think. Which, I mean, who knows where we'll be. But I think when you look at it, there are situations that, like, thinking about that Fenerbahce game, there are moments where he has saved our skin. So for me, maybe that's why I'm being give him a little bit of wiggle room, but I'm not as savage as Crooky on this one.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and move on from him, because we could go in on quite a few players, to be honest with you. I'm going to move you on to Amorim and his post-match conference. Now, as he alluded to, it has dominated the headlines. It truly has dominated the headlines. And he said this is perhaps the worst Manchester United team in history. Now, I'm looking at comments. I like to do it. I like to be in tune with the Man United fan base. And it's split down the middle between people saying how honest and how refreshing that is, and people saying how counterproductive it is. Crooky, I want to know, from your perspective, what is your opinion on that? Do you think that did more harm than it did good?
I was all for it at the time. You know, you look at Erik ten Hag, and the word I used to describe him regularly was delusional.
Yeah.
You know, regularly telling us this team were going in the right direction, when clearly we could see with our own eyes that wasn't the case. So I think he's laid it out. I think this squad is certainly the worst squad of our lifetime, and I think you probably have to go back to that team that got relegated from the top flight in Dennis Law's era, you know, when he was playing for City, to find a worse Manchester United team. So I admire his honesty. I think there's also a little bit of self-preservation. I don't think he wanted to take over halfway through the season. He wanted to see out the season at Sporting, probably lead them to another Portuguese title, and then come in with a clean slate. He's come in halfway through a season. I'm not sure he completely understood the mess that he was inheriting, and you look at the money that Erik ten Hag spent and how badly that was invested. So I think he's almost distancing himself from blame and saying, look, this season I'm going to try and polish what I've got, polish these rough diamonds. That's a polite way of putting it. I can think of stronger expressions, but it probably isn't going to happen. You know, so we're going to have more lows than highs this season. There will be good moments, like Liverpool, like City away, like Arsenal in the FA Cup. But for every FA Cup penalty win, there's going to be a comfortable home defeat against a team that historically United should be beating. So I admire it. Listen, if the players don't like it, stuff them. Yeah. These are the players who've been letting the badge down for too long. So if their ego is bruised, good.
Look, I think there's going to be a lot of people that echo what you're saying. I must admit, I did find it quite refreshing because it was so different to Erik ten Hag. So I do take that point on board. And I'll throw it back over to you. Carragher and Petit, for example, they really went in on how negative that was and how it's a backward step, really. And as I say, it's counterproductive.
They're not Manchester United fans who've had to sit through this.
Yeah, but it's true. It's true. We're witnessing this every week. So did you disagree with those comments? Are you of the same opinion as Crooky?
Well, yeah, I think that's more coming from, precious ex-footballers, to be completely honest. No disrespect to either of them, but I think that's, I think as a former footballer, I think you probably have a different opinion. But, since Fergie's departure, we've been tiptoeing around these players. I mean, don't know if you guys remember when, I think it was in the Champions League, was it against Atalanta, when the fans were booing and Ollie was coming out like, don't disrespect the players, like they understand, what it is to play for Manchester United. Maybe those players did in his mind, I don't know, but these current players don't share that sentiment. And I do think, people have been very, very kind to these players, and I think a splash of water in the face is probably what they need. I mean, I took it as him being a little bit facetious, to be honest. I mean, I know the media has run with it of he is saying categorically this is the worst team. I think when you look at his expressions and stuff and him saying, like, there's your headlines, etc. I don't think he's actually coming out and saying these players are all like the worst. But, maybe we're seeing a little bit of Amorim and his coaching team, and I'm not going against it, but maybe a little bit of their inexperience or, like you say, naivety, that maybe they didn't understand how big this job was. Because when he first came in, he was saying, I believe in these players, I'm going to back these players. And now you can kind of see he's not backtracking, but he's almost thinking, I can see now that this is a massive issue. And I know even people, like journalists like Andy Mitten has spoken and said, behind closed doors, a lot of managers have kind of been saying the same thing. So props to him for coming out and saying it. I thought it was interesting as well. After the game, Bruno Fernandes, he was coming out saying that he wanted, I love that he was almost talking like, he was saying we, but you could tell that he really didn't want to include himself in it. And he was talking about how, the players need to show more personality and things like that. And I think you have to question him as much as I like Bruno. Well, as captain, how are you trying to get more out of your teammates and things? And I thought it was quite interesting that he was almost trying to switch it and say, like, I want to see more personality from the players. Like, we need to show more of this. And it's like, well, why is it for the glamorous events we're seeing it and the unglamorous games that maybe aren't the headline stealers? Well, the headline stealers now for the wrong reasons. It seems like they're almost sitting back and they're not interested.
Do you know what? It's such a good point. I wonder, and I've been asked this question, I've seen this question a few times, whether Amorim's post-match conferences, pre-match conferences sometimes are a bit of a dig to INEOS, whether he's inadvertently talking about INEOS or to INEOS through these conferences. I mean, what must Amorim be thinking about INEOS Group? I've got to say a little rant here. I think they're creating more headlines than they should be. I think it's been nothing but a wave of negativity since they took over.
Glazers must be buzzing.
They must be buzzing.
They must be sat there thinking, they must be like clinking glasses of champagne with each other, thinking this was the best thing we could have done.
Yeah.
Because no one is talking about us anymore.
Exactly.
This is all on Sir Jim and co. For them, they've played a blinder.
Honestly, it's a masterclass, absolute masterclass from the Glazers. You think about INEOS backing Erik ten Hag, publicly interviewing all the managers. We've gone back to it, we've talked about it loads. Backing him, though, and then abandoning ship and bringing Amorim in. We're hearing, and Crooky, you'll know about this more than me, but it was kind of an ultimatum with regards to come now or you're not going to come at all, we're going to bring somebody else in.
And this was just a few months after he was presented as a viable option to United by an intermediary, and they said, no, his style of play doesn't fit this squad.
Exactly.
Clearly it doesn't.
Yeah.
But that shows the muddled thinking, really, and the brains trusts were out in force, weren't they?
Yeah.
Against Southampton in midweek, so Jim Ratcliffe was there. The cycling guru was there as well. I mean, what he's doing running a football club is
It's a motley crew when the cameras pan to them, isn't it?
perplexing to me. And you mentioned the negative headlines. There's more to come, by the way. I can't say too much right now, but I'm working on another story that doesn't read well for INEOS in terms of some of the savage cuts they're making. The club line is they have to make these cuts because they lost £113 million last year. So Jim Ratcliffe has put 300 million quid of his own money into the football club, $300 million, I should say, because he wants to invest in the stadium and rebuild Old Trafford. He wants to invest in the squad. And if they don't make these cuts, then that money's just going to be swallowed up. But there's a fine line, isn't there? And from a PR perspective, they've not got much right so far. And when Amorim comes out and says, this is the worst United team in history, this is arguably the lowest ebb for the football club as a whole. You know, the stadium is falling apart. The training ground is not fit for purpose when you compare it to those other elite teams in the Premier League. They're damaging morale with the cuts they're making, you know, to people who've dedicated their lives to the football club. So I've said it before. I was one of the first to say it. I'm not convinced by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I've not seen enough from INEOS to suggest actually the club is moving forward.
I couldn't agree more, honestly. You talk about the PR. I'm fully waiting, right, for one of the news broadcasters upstairs at talkSPORT to say, breaking news, Jim Ratcliffe just been spotted taking candy from a baby. Reports suggest he snatched with both hands.
He's Mr. Burns from The Simpsons.
He literally is.
He literally is. Like, it's shocking, some of these things. But I think, do you not think that maybe him and Amorim are almost singing from the same hymn sheet in a way of, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe gave the interview with Andy Mitten and he said, you know, like, I'm paraphrasing, but, you know, like, the rot is pretty deep here. What Ruben Amorim's saying is kind of similar in saying, like, we have got a major issue here and we're going to have to seriously suffer. So, because I was thinking, is he saying it to try and say to them, we need to sign players or something? Or maybe they actually kind of are looking at each other thinking, this is an absolute nightmare. Maybe they're actually, you know, quite in cohesion with each other.
Yeah, potentially. Make no mistake about it. During that interview process, Amorim would have sat down and he'd have told them, this is the way I like to play, this is my style, and I'm not going to pivot from it. He says it to us, he's said it to them.
That's why he didn't get the Liverpool job.
Yeah, exactly that. And he's saying it to the players. We hire him anyway, knowing, well, we know now these players can't fit this system. And if this system isn't to an exact point, it won't work. It just will not work. And he's not being backed in January as well. As I say, all I'm hearing, and we'll talk about this later for the transfers, is players going out the door. Which, look, I know that has to happen at some point, but we have to think about bringing players in. So it's just an absolute...
I think you'll find that there's going to be, you know, a bit of investment in youth. You know, we've seen more minutes for Toby Collier. I think he's done well when he's come on.
Yeah, he has.
Still a little bit surprised that we haven't seen more of Harry Amas this season, bearing in mind...
That's the position.
You know, that was what we were told in the summer, was that he was, you know, the sort of next superstar to come out of the academy, and you're right, that position as well.
And there's a couple of good, you know, strikers in the youth system as well. I mean, I know we've all heard about, you know, the
Scandinavian friend.
Yeah, and also the guy from Arsenal. I mean, I know he's only about 16, 17.
Banging him away, isn't he?
Yeah. So I think there are options there, but that's what United's about, though, bringing through.
And it might come to that, because you're right. I think there's going to be many more departures than there are incomings. I'd be surprised if they sign more than two at premium. It wouldn't surprise me if they only sign one player this window.
Well, do you know, I'd love to see players like Abi Martin, as you alluded to there, come through. I really would, but let's not get into a place where we're over-reliant on the youth. I mean, look at Kobbie Mainoo. He looks exhausted out there, and he's come back from injury, and we've already got so much expectation. I've talked about Garnacho being 20 years old as well. Ahmad's our new saviour. So we just need to be careful about how we manage that. But I like what you're doing. You're trying to get some positives. So let's dig out a few more positives. I want to talk about Xerxes. Let's just try and do what we can. So Xerxes, he comes on. You've talked about, you alluded to earlier, Crooky, Højlund's hold-up play. I'll be honest, it doesn't look like that is a part of his arsenal. It really doesn't. It's not part of his game. Whereas Xerxes comes on, he can hold the ball up a little bit better. He wins the penalty. I'll throw it to you, actually, Ange. Are you happy to see him start? Are you happy to see him do well now? Is there a future for Xerxes?
I think you always want to see a Man United player do well. I mean, at the end of the day, is whether I think he's the right signing or not, you know, he's here now. So you, of course, want people to be a success. I hate what happened to him with the booing and everything like that. I thought it was trash from the fans that did it, to be completely honest. I'm not convinced that he fits this system.
Yeah.
I am of the personal opinion that if we can get him playing well for the rest of the season and we can get something for him in the summer, I do think long-term that is a better plan. But at the moment, for him to be playing well, I'm happy with that. I want to see that. And it's nice to see his confidence building. I think, but it more says what is going on with Rasmus Højlund as well. This is what's concerning me, that, you know, it's just not happening for him. And you've got someone like Xerxes who's had such a rocky start to this season. And he's actually, when you go pound for pound with the performances, he's probably been better.
Yeah, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, Crooky. So forgive me if I've overstepped the mark. But you've never really been too sure about Højlund from memory, have you?
I defended him a little bit when Flex was talking about the fact that maybe they should break the bank for Victor Gyökeres, because I don't necessarily see that Gyökeres is any more of a guarantee. What I would say about Rasmus Højlund, and I've just mentioned earlier the money that was wasted under Erik ten Hag, he's not a £70 million player, you know, and whoever signed off that deal really has got serious questions to answer, because he doesn't score enough goals, he doesn't hold the ball up. Don't think he's got particularly bags of pace when it comes to, you know, being a top-level Premier League striker.
I'm confident when I see him with the ball.
No, and you know, maybe there is improvement to come, and obviously he's still a relatively young player. But the murmurings I'm hearing is that Amorim is not convinced by him or Xerxes.
No. OK, well, there we go. We've done our best to inject some positivity there. And before we move on to what Man United are up to in the transfer window, we need to inject a bit more positivity into the show in another form of a Manchester derby victory. A hat-trick from Ella Toone set United on their way to a famous 4-2 victory at the Etihad and takes Man United to third in the Women's Super League. I saw all the celebrations in the tunnel. It was fantastic. It was great to see. Ange, we're going to throw over to you. Massive victory for United, wasn't it?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, this is the first victory for the Man United women away at Manchester City.
Wow.
You know, Manchester City have been without, you know, people like Khadija Shaw, Alex Greenwood, Lauren Hemp. But you know, City do still have a lot of stars in that team, and they were terrible the first half. You know, their goalkeeper, Chiara Keating, she had some blunders, but, you know, she's a 20-year-old goalkeeper, and when you want a goalkeeper to play out from the back like that at such a young age, you probably are going to make mistakes. But someone like Ella Toone really showed her class and what she's about, that she was able to capitalise on everything. She's not had the best start to the season. I know that she's had a personal bereavement. She's had an injury. So I think it was a big hat-trick for her. People were very sceptical about the women's team than the men's team coming into this season. And they've been absolutely fantastic. You know, for people that maybe don't watch a lot of women's football, you know, Chelsea are stealing the show. They're unbeaten at the top. But, you know, United are in third. Arsenal are only ahead of them on goal difference.
Right.
They've got arguably, I think, joint best defence in the Women's Super League. They've still got, you know, they're still in cup competitions. So it's an exciting time for the women's team. And it'll be really interesting that towards the end of the season, we have the Manchester derby again, which will be at Old Trafford. And it'd be really nice to see, you know, for people to come out and really support them, because that's what we want to see in women's football.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that one. Crooky, the Etihad becoming a bit of a stomping ground for United this season, eh?
Yeah, it looked a decent crowd as well, decent contingent of United fans. So always nice to get the bragging rights, whether it be men or women. And as Ange says there, maybe the women are a bit of a shining light on the football club at the moment.
Well, they definitely are. Manchester is red, never forget it. With Man United's inconsistent form continuing, though, there's even more attention being paid to the club's transfer business this window. Fresh rumours regarding potential signings and big departures have arisen in the last 24 hours. So, and this is one of my perks of the job. We're here with an expert. We're so very lucky to have Alex Crook with us to bring us up to speed. Alex, we'll get straight into it. There's lots of reports of Anthony being sent on loan.
Can we get excited, please? Tell me you've got some good news.
Ange wants him out the door. Crooky, how valid are these rumours? Is there any truth to it?
Yeah, I think it's done. Real Betis on loan for the rest of the season. No option to buy, including the deal. There was talk of an option of around 35 million euros,
We'll take what we can get,
which would have been a massive loss on the £86 million they paid. And I mentioned on breakfast yesterday morning, actually, on talkSPORT, pound for pound, this guy is the worst signing in Premier League history, isn't he? When you look at his stats, 1 goal this season against Barnsley in the EFL Cup, and fitting in some ways. I was going to say the end of his Manchester United career, but it probably isn't, because they're not going to sign him permanently, are they, Real Betis? So it only kicks the can down the road. But the last act we'll see of Anthony in a Manchester United shirt this season was missing from 2 yards against Southampton, when if he just stood up, he'd score. And he just fell over. Oh, yeah. He just fell over.
Did not need to go to ground for that, did he? But so there you go. It's as good as done, is what Crook is saying. And I can see you beaming from that side of the studio. You're happy about that, I take it.
Do we have champagne? Can we celebrate?
Can we get some champagne for Ange, please?
Thank you. No, listen. You never want to see it go this way. I don't want Man United signings to be terrible, especially ones that we've paid a lot of money for. But it clearly isn't working. For me, it's that Fenerbahce game that we were at when he started rolling around on the floor and all that ridiculous behaviour. And
he even made Ahmad angry.
Even Ahmad was angry. You know what? The nicest kid on the block, and he was fuming. I think... I kind of feel a bit sad for him that he started this season saying, oh, you're going to see a different side to me. I really think that I can bring something this season. It hasn't happened. I say it all the time about cutting the cord. This needs to happen. I think for him, it's the best option for the club. And let's hope that he can have a good season in La Liga and maybe a La Liga team, anyone would take him. Or I don't know.
Manuel Pellegrini is the manager, isn't he, for Real Betis?
Well, yeah, exactly. Who knows?
The City connection.
He could reignite his career over there. Let's hope he does. I'm going to throw some more over to you here, Crooky. Lecce's 20-year-old left wing back Patrick Dorgu. We've talked about this position. It's very important in Amorim's system. How valid is this? Is this feasible? Is it going to happen this window?
Well, the interest is certainly valid, and talks are ongoing between the two clubs. I think the issue could be the transfer fee. I think they're asking for in excess of £30 million. Obviously, PSR-wise, United are very reluctant to spend. But let's see if they can get this deal done. I think Ruben Amorim has made it pretty clear to the hierarchy that if you're going to sign one position this window, it's got to be a left wing back, because there's no sign of Luke Shaw coming back to fitness. I'm told that Tyrell Malacia has been told he can go out on loan, so they must be confident of getting someone in that position to even entertain
Malacia going out on loan.
Go.
Yeah, what's I mean,
he's another one, isn't he?
It's never really happened, does it?
It's just never worked, has it? It's just never worked. Now this one makes me feel sick reading this. I'm not going to lie to you. I've said it so many times, but we're going to talk about departures here. Garnacho and Kobbie Mainoo.
Mainoo won't go.
That's
Okay, good.
one for you, Ryan.
Yes, I'm feeling good now. So Mainoo's not going anywhere.
No, listen, the situation with both players is that United are not actively trying to force them out the door. Because they're academy products and because INEOS are conscious of the finances for reasons we've discussed, they're vulnerable to bids. But I think Kobbie Mainoo is protected by a contract, talks ongoing about extending that deal. So I think there's many more players that they would sell ahead of him. Garnacho is slightly different.
Crooky, don't do this to me. Don't say this, because I know Napoli are sniffing around. Yeah, he's not going, is he?
And you don't make bids if you're a club of the stature of Napoli without a little bit of encouragement on the player side. And what I was told this morning, and I reported it in my notebook that you'll find on the talkSPORT website, is that reluctantly Garnacho is now coming round to the idea of leaving United. He doesn't want to force his way out, but I think he fears that he doesn't really fit into Ruben Amorim's system. Obviously, those doubts crept in after he was dropped alongside Rashford for the Manchester derby. He's ambitious. I think he wants to follow in Ronaldo's footsteps and play for Real Madrid one day. And at the moment, he just doesn't see a role for him at United. The flip side of that, there's no issues, as I understand it, between the manager and the player in terms of his character, the way that he applies himself in training. And if he does stay, he will get his minutes, as he has done recently. But if they get an offer that matches their valuation I think he would now reluctantly move on, and I think they would partially reluctantly take it. So I think this is certainly one we're going to be keeping an eye on.
Oh man, I can't tell you how much this breaks my heart. I'm such a big fan of Garnacho, and I've said it several times. Ben Jacobs reported that Garnacho's agent was at Chelsea last night. So if not Napoli, do you think?
There's interest from Chelsea. I'm not sure they're going to pay the money that United would want, and certainly United aren't looking to send him out on loan or anything like that. I mean, they've already got Sancho on loan from United, so they couldn't do that anyway.
How many minutes realistically would he be getting?
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of wide players, but there is a slot, isn't there, because of the situation ongoing with Mikhailo Mudryk. So certainly Chelsea have been asked to be kept informed on developments, but it looks like Napoli have shown the stronger interest so far. And of course, they've got Scott McTominay, who's going great guns in Serie A.
Well, and so would they. This is my plea down the camera. Look, you can see a team like Napoli, who are flying right now, are so interested. The manager said Garnacho's his dream signing. Think about what you're hearing. Why would we let a player like that go? I know. I speak to Man United fans and I hear them say, let him go. It's pure profit. What are you talking about? When did you care about profit and things? We've got a fantastic player here, a 20-year-old player.
Where does he fit? Because he's not a wing back. He's not a number 10.
I hear that, but the last comments on Amorim on Garnacho were he's prepared to look at his own position. He's prepared to change, and I think at 20 years old we could see him adapt to somewhere else.
We could to adapt maybe to a different role.
He's supposedly a really good lad as well. I know Bruno Fernandes made some suggestions about his attitude early in his United tenure, but what I'm told is he got his head down. He's a nice kid.
Yeah.
It would be sad.
I know the comments are going to say, just move on. It's fine. We'll replace him. There's better wingers out there. I think Scholes said the same thing. But I say stick with the lad. I really do. Okay, we're going to move on. I've got to ask you about Rashford because what's going on there? There was a lot of talk at the start of the window. He was the name, wasn't he, Crooky? And it's gone a little bit quiet.
Well, it was no coincidence that a lot of journalists ran with the same information on Tuesday that Rashford was doing extra training. He was willing to fight for his place in the team.
What a surprise. No one's come in for him yet, and suddenly is 100% committed and has no problem with Ruben Amorim or the club. If you were that committed, don't say that you want to leave.
I think he made a massive error of judgment with what he said to Henry Winter, and that's not a criticism of Henry at all, who's a fantastic journalist.
Yeah.
But when a player comes out publicly and says, I need a new challenge, that's not going to go down well with the manager. It's not gone down well with the supporters either. And, he's saying now he wants to fight for his place. Well, where was the fight when he was actually on the pitch? You know, when he was sulking about and, maybe not putting a shift in as Manchester United fans would expect. So, but it's a really difficult situation. And again, I've written about this in the notebook. If he does stay, and there's still interest from Borussia Dortmund and from Monaco and from Barcelona as well.
So there's interest there?
Yeah, but financially it's a really difficult deal to do. He's on 325 grand a week plus bonuses, image rights, takes it nearer 400 grand a week. Even if United are asking for clubs to pay half that, that's a 200 grand a week commitment, which for clubs in Europe is an awful lot of money. So something's going to have to give. It wouldn't surprise me if he does stay. I said right at the start of the window, it's all very well saying he wants to leave, but where's he going to go? And, when a player comes out and says they want to leave, normally they've got something lined up. I don't think he did at that stage. But if he does stay, how does Ruben Amorim reintegrate him into the team? How does he patch up that relationship?
Because surely, in order to keep his stock as high as Rashford's stock at the minute can be, surely you can't just keep him benched to try and get rid of him.
You just devalue the asset. Yeah, and also there's an argument. You look at these performances. Peak Marcus Rashford improves the team.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen peak Marcus Rashford for a long time.
I think that's what it is. I think he's been our star man for a long time too. So if you make your star man someone as inconsistent as Rashford, you get inconsistent results. Do
you know what I'd like him to do? If he doesn't leave, come on Inside Devils.
Yeah.
Give us an interview. Open up. Tell us what's been going wrong for you in the last 18 months or so. Yeah. Show a little bit of contrition for those performances.
Honesty, man.
Stop playing the victim.
Yeah, that's it. We want the Marcus Rashford exclusive. Come on here and tell us exactly how you feel, Marcus. Now it is time to look ahead to a huge European fixture at Old Trafford this Thursday as we take on Rangers. The visitors sit just one place beneath United in the automatic round of 16 places heading into the crunch match. And it was only right that we hear from Mr. Rangers himself. Here's what happened when I caught up with the legendary Ally McCoist earlier. Thank you very much for sitting down for us for Inside Devils to preview what's going to be a huge game for both clubs, isn't it? I mean, they've only played each other 4 times in their history. I don't mind telling you Manchester United have never lost to Rangers in their history as well. But you must be licking your lips right now at the prospect of playing United.
I'm not sure I'd go that far. I'm not sure I'd go that far. Just going back to a couple of the games. I was assistant to Walter when we had a 0 each draw at Old Trafford.
Wow.
That might have been the year we went to final. I was also at the game, at Ibrox. I think Wayne Rooney scored a penalty and United won 1-0.
Okay.
So
and you were there for that?
I was there for that game as well.
Okay.
So not a lot between the sides, really. But this is an interesting one because there's no doubt about it. Both teams have had better sides recently. Both teams are they're struggling domestically. The interesting thing from Rangers' point of view, their better form this year has been in Europe.
Yeah.
And some of the better performances have been away from home. And I've seen them all, been working at them all. I was in Malmo, they had a good victory 2-0. They won 4 in Nice. And they should have won in Greece. Olympiacos ended up drawing. So their form actually, in contrast to their domestic football, their European football's been a level up. I obviously think United will start favourites. But I just think the lack of consistency from both sides this year makes it a kind of difficult game for anybody. Hard to predict with any conviction. I would say I would fancy United, right? Because you look at United team, you think they've got better players at this moment in time than Rangers. As I say, Rangers away form and the league's been bang average. In fact, it's not been as good as bang average. It's been poor. So with that in mind, I would fancy United. But then something in the back of my head says, but you've seen United recently and they're poor. So I think it's a nearly impossible, very, very difficult game to call because of the lack of consistency and the level of performance from both teams, mate.
How would you set up against United? Would you go for it?
No, I wouldn't. Rangers going away from home in Europe. If they went to go at United, I just think it would suit United. And I say they still get players that can really, really hurt you. So I don't expect Rangers to go and open up against United. I expect them to go with a solid shape, with a kind of 4-3-3 in attack, maybe a 4-5-1 when you don't have the ball, because the boys in wide areas are going to have to come back. There's no doubt about it. Or they might go 4-2-3-1. But the bottom line is when they don't have the ball, whether it's a 2 and a 3, they'll have to come back into a 5 and let United have a little bit of possession.
Yeah, just reading into what you've said there, and obviously off camera as well, we spoke about it today. You've got a really interesting take about Amorim, how he should kind of not abandon ship, but just pivot away from his style for the time being to make sure that United are okay.
I do, Ryan, and we've all got opinions on it. And listen, he's a fantastic coach. That's why he's now coach at Manchester United. And I saw, as I mentioned earlier, I saw his team, an excellent Sporting Lisbon side, playing that shape and playing that formation, dismantle Manchester City and cruise the league in Portugal. But I just think sometimes you've actually got to play to the strength of your players rather than just stick with a formation that might not suit them.
Yeah.
And I look at United just now, and I might be wrong, it's only my personal opinion, I don't think they're suited to that formation because of the players you've got.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to change, even if your favoured position, your favoured formation and shape doesn't suit it, I think you've got to play a formation and shape that suit your team, that suit your players. And then, given time with transfer windows, bring in players or get players that can play the shape and formation that you want to play and you're comfortable with. But if you've not got the players to do it right now,
it won't work.
And they're not capable of doing it right now, then why would you do it? These centre backs are fine. But I mentioned Chair, I think the two most important, arguably, positions in your team are the two wide boys in your fort. Because they've got to go bump. They've got to come back to a 5 when you're defending, and they've got to get forward. To help the forwards when you're attacking, and I'm not sure. I mean, when he goes to the 3 and the 4 and the 2, and whether it's Hoyland or Zirkzee through the middle, if it's the 2 here and he plays Ahmad or Garnacho. Both talented players, in my opinion, very talented players. But I don't think they're number 10s.
No.
I don't think they're 10s. I think they're wide players.
Yeah.
I just think they're wide players.
Naturally, they are.
I just think playing in there, they're not comfortable in that position, half turn and things like that. I just think they're happier taking the ball, maybe with a back to the touchline where they can see it and just go and attack. But it's all about personal opinions, you know. It is all about personal opinions.
Yeah, and we hold yours very high regard as well, Ali. So I have a message from our very own Angelina Kelly and Alex Crook, our very own Inside Devils. I'm going to show you them now.
We all know this is your biggest game of the season. It's just another game for Manchester United. And listen, surely even this United team aren't so bad they're going to lose to a Rangers side. 13 points behind Celtic in the SPL. You've already lost 4 league games this season. The title has gone, so this is pretty much all you've got to play for. And I'll tell you what, when United beat you out of sight on Thursday night, that next beer on the beach in Katera that we have in the summer is going to go down very nicely indeed.
Hey Ally, Angelina here. Now, we know Rangers haven't had the best season, and I think I have a solution for your problems. What if I told you that you could sign an £80 million winger, Brazilian, with World Cup and Champions League experience, 5 trophies to his name, and has scored a winner against Barcelona, and has an Olympic gold medal? I mean, that sounds good, right? Would Rangers want to sign Manchester United winger Anthony, and could your manager get him back to playing at his best? Despite the transfer rumours, it's not too late to come in with a bid for a permanent deal.
Thank you very, very kindly for your offer. But I think my £80 million will be staying in my bank account at Rangers. Thank you very much, though.
Amazing. Right, to finish, we'll just get your score prediction then, Ali. We always do this on the Inside Devils. What do you think it's going to be? How do you think it's going to go?
I'm officially letting my heart once again rule my head.
Yeah.
And the scoreline on Thursday night will be Manchester United 1, Rangers 1.
Oh, you nearly done me there.
Couldn't do it. I'll take a. If you're offered, I'd bite your hand off for a 1-1 right now.
You know what? I'd probably take it as well. Ali, thank you very much.
Great to see you, mate.
Always a pleasure.
Great to see you.
There we go. Ally McCoist. Ali, thank you very much as always for your time. So he's gone for 1-1. Ange, by the way, he's politely declined your request for Anthony.
Devastated. Thank goodness you've given me some good news, because Ali and Rangers was my last hope.
Exactly. Fighting talk from you there, Crooky.
I didn't mean a word of it, by the way. I didn't believe a word of it anyway.
Yeah, but you just got to put it up, haven't you? You just got to show a good front. But Ally McCoist himself said this is a really difficult one to predict because both teams are underperforming in the league respectively. Crooky, you went for 1-1 in the end. How do you think this game's going to go? Just like, I mean, Brighton, it didn't shock me, that result. It didn't shock me. It didn't ruin my day because I half expect it. How should we approach this? How do you think it will go?
Listen, I don't want to be disrespectful to Scottish football here, but if you take away the sort of Battle of Britain element, if this was a home game against a team from another European country of a similar standing of Rangers, we would be confident and we should be confident. Yeah. Manchester United should be beating Rangers at home. But the fact it's a bit of a derby certainly adds a lot of pressure. And what worries me about Rangers, they're not dissimilar to United actually. They're underperforming in the league. But when they've needed to, they've stepped up and got results. They hammered Celtic the other week, which nobody expected. And they've got some really good results in Europe, hence the fact they've got a great chance of qualifying for the round of 16. So they are dangerous opponents, and it's going to be a hell of an atmosphere that the Rangers fans create. There is an argument, this is one of United's biggest games of the season, because ultimately losing at home to Brighton, there's not going to be any consequence. Those 3 teams that have come up from the Championship are so poor that there's no danger of United being dragged into relegation. Wolves are not great either. I think Southampton are gone, and then it's 2 from the other 3. So we don't need to worry about relegation. Although,
which is a crazy sentence.
Well, yeah.
If you'd have said that to me at the start of the season, it'd have blown my mind. But you're absolutely right.
But it means you can almost learn on the job in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But if United win this, if we win this game, suddenly the round of 16 moves onto the horizon, and there's a Champions League place at stake in the Europa League.
Yeah.
And you haven't got the headache this year of the underperformers in the Champions League dropping into the Europa League. So you know what you've got to face.
Yeah.
Tottenham were favourites last time I checked. If Tottenham are favourites in their current state, United have got to be fancying their chance of winning this competition. But to do that, they've got to get the job done here, and then they've got to go to Bucharest in the next game and get the job done there as well.
Now, let's look forward to Fulham as well, or rather not look forward to it, because they're a good team. And obviously the state that we're in. Ange, do you expect to see a fair bit of rotation either between the Rangers game or this Fulham game? Do you want to see Binder come in potentially? Does Amorim know his starting 11, his best 11 yet? I mean, where'd you go with it?
It's interesting with the goalkeepers because he does seem to be sticking to you play in this competition, you play in the other competition. So I'm not too sure. I mean,
You might play him against Rangers.
maybe.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's more likely than putting him in for a Premier League game. So, maybe we will see that with Rangers. I would like to see, I'm enjoying seeing people like Toby Collier come in.
Yeah, me too.
I would like to see a little bit more of that, but it's really hard because when you've got these games that you should be, you look at the game like the Southampton game, that should have been an easy game. That should have been an enjoyable game where we could have maybe brought some players on and maybe, tried a couple of different things. It's just such a hard one. I mean, I don't know where we're at with injuries, where we will be at with injuries by that point, but you are waiting if this left wing back signing, if this does come in, because the person that gives me the most anxiety at the moment is Dalot. Like I say, I'm kind of at the mercy of Ruben Amorim. If he wants to tweak things, he wants to try things, then fair enough, but it's going to be a tough one, as long as Ahmad's playing.
Exactly, yeah. I'll save you right now. Look, I'm going to put you under pressure then, guys. It's that time of the show, and we're going to start with you, Ange. I want your score predictions for Rangers and Fulham.
Okay, so Rangers, like Crooky said, with all due respect to Rangers, on paper, this should be a game that we are winning. We should be up for this. The Premier League is a write-off for us, complete write-off. We could still have, not saying, we could potentially win it if Spurs are favourites, but we could at least have something that's confidence building, like a good run in this competition. How terrible have we been in Europe? To be able to just have this season is, we at least gave a good account of ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. The Fulham game, I hate having to predict losses, so I'm going to have to go maybe a 1-1 draw.
Oh, okay.
But it's one of them situations, again, like I normally do, where we all kind of know I'm lying a bit.
I'm reading between the lines, Ange. No, I'm with you. Crooky.
3-2 win against Rangers.
All right. Bit of a classic, that.
Yeah,
I like
I
that.
can see another roller coaster night. I think both teams vulnerable defensively.
Yeah.
Fulham are a good side this season. Marco Silva is a very good coach. 3-1 Fulham.
Whoa, Crooky, you're killing me. You're killing me, but I respect the honesty. I'm going to put mine on the table as well. I say it's going to be a Desmond against Rangers, I think 2-2. And I think Fulham, I think it could go either way. I'm going to settle on a 1-1. I wouldn't be surprised if they edge it 2-1. And those are my predictions. Look, it's a somber studio, but good times surely lie ahead, surely. And that's all we've got time for this week on Inside Devils. A big thank you to Alex Crook and Angelina Kelly. Flex, thank you for letting me borrow this. And he'll be back next week. Cheers, guys.